everybody. I'm Katie Arroyo.
And I'm Laura Manasowicz.
And this is Pinky Promise, a podcast about growing up. And for those of you that are not watching on YouTube, our wonderful guest just gave us a nice little pinky promise of his own. I'm so excited about this week's guest. He's one of my favorite comedians. Thank you, Oscar Collazos.
Woo! Thank you for having me.
And this week, so Oscar and I share, we share an identity of being Latino children raised in America. I think I've been whitewashed much more than you, but we have ended up on so many Latino shows together. Yeah, so this week we are going to talk about what it was like to be raised by immigrant parents. And Laura,
I wasn't. There we go. Over to you.
All right, back over.
Laura, do me a favor, just stay quiet for the next 45 minutes, okay?
You got it.
Yeah.
Katie, when you originally started that sentence, I thought you were going to say, we share the same identity crisis.
Oh, I mean, yeah, it feels like that sometimes. I think, so Oscar, your parents are both immigrant. They're both immigrants, correct?
I am an immigrant myself.
And you're saying you yourself are an immigrant. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So why don't you tell everyone a little bit of the backstory?
Oh, boy. I don't even know. Jesus. I guess real quick. I was born in Colombia. When I was 7, my family decided to move to the United States, and we came to Miami. So I grew up in suburban Miami, Fort Lauderdale to be exact. And I moved to a small town in suburban Fort Lauderdale by the name of Plantation, which at the time was predominantly white. So I was like this Latino kid in this very white town, but I went to like an all-black high school. So my growing up was very convoluted.
Yeah.
You know, I grew up in a white town. I would play on white streets, but then I went to a black high school, and then I came home to the third world of Colombia.
I was going to say, like no one was brown.
It was a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, my mom is very Irish Catholic. Like she's Irish and German, raised very like Catholic and white, and is from upstate New York. And she married my dad, who was from Mexico, and we lived in Texas for a while as a family. And so we grew up at that point like very bilingual. My mom speaks fluent Spanish, so they would just speak to each other in Spanish all the time. And then we moved to upstate New York, and it was just so white. And my parents will still laugh about my mom's mom, like that grandmother was babysitting us, and she called my mom because she goes, "The girls are crying for leche, and I don't know what that means." And she's like, "What do they want?" She was like, "I don't know what this is." And so we were so bilingual that we just like didn't even know to speak to our grandmother in English. And now I literally cannot roll my R's. So like we've gotten whitewashed so bad.
I've had similar experiences. So for example, my name in America is Oscar Collazos.
Yeah.
Right? Collazos. But Katie, you know, Laura, you I'm sure if you took Spanish too, you know as well. But the way you really pronounce that is Oscar Collazos.
Yes.
Right? But when I came to this country, I would be like, my name is Oscar Collazos, right? And then people would be like, what? And I'd be like, my name is Oscar Collazos. And they'd be like, what? And I'd be like, my name's Oscar Collazos.
Yeah, there we go.
I got it.
So frustrating.
Mine was like, they'd be like, we got the Katie. And literally people responded as if my last name had like 37 letters in it. Like they would be like, Katie R. I'm not even going to try. Like, we'll just call you Katie R.
Okay, this I can relate to. I have a 10-letter last name that's pretty phonetic, and people quit after the first 3 letters. Oh, I can't. I'm like, you can.
You know
can.
what's so funny? Now that I think about it, you know what's so funny? I guess back when we were growing up, if they were afraid to pronounce our last name, it wasn't because they were going to offend us. It was because they were just lazy.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Now it's like, oh, I might piss this person off.
Yeah.
But back then it was just like, ARR. What the fuck is your name?
Yeah.
Like, I don't care. You know?
And every teacher, and of course it starts with an A, so it's like every class I'd be the first one or the second one. They'd be like Anderson, present. Katie or and I'd be like, it's me. And they'd be like, can you just tell me? And then like every day they'd be like, Katie, all right.
Katie A.
Yeah,
You're
Katie
like,
A. It was crazy.
I remember
Did
two
you, like-
women I went
Oh, go
to
ahead.
school with, or girls I went to school with, who had similar names, but one was Portuguese and one I think she's Puerto Rican. I'm not sure. That like no one tried. It was like, I'm gonna call you what the white people want to pronounce this as, regardless of like your identity or the name that your family gave you. And I remember like being young and being like, I think this is fucked up. And I can't even imagine like I'd love to talk to them now as adult women to be like, did that piss you off? Or like, what was your mind frame going into it? Because it rolled for a little bit. But I think by high school, people were like, no, call them by what their names actually are.
You know what's so funny? When I was in high school, I'll never forget my name. I mean, I don't say my name was difficult to pronounce because I don't think it was. I'm sure maybe some people had pronunciation issues with it, but I sat next to a girl from Iran at my high school, and her name was Maritash.
Mhm.
That was her name, Maritash. But then we had a substitute teacher come in for my anatomy class, and I will never forget. She's going down the list, right? And then when she got, we sat in alphabetical order. So her last name was Davari, and I was Collazos. So I'm next to her. And as she's coming, I will never forget. Maritash just bumped me in my, with the shoulder.
Yeah.
She was like, "Watch this." and then the lady gets to her name, and she was like, remember, her name's Maritash. This lady goes, Maritrash?
What? No!
Oh, no.
And ever since then, this was 1997. I have never called her Maritash ever again. She's always just known as Maritrash.
Yeah. That's how a nickname happens.
Yeah, and that's how you ruin someone's life.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
So how did you become suicidal? A substitute teacher?
Why do you have low self-esteem? Why do you think you're garbage?
Yeah, seriously.
So like our whole town, I mean, people like I literally cannot roll my R's. So like now that I live in an area that's more diverse, I will say my name shitty. Like I say it the white way, and they're like, "Oh no, Arroyo," and I'm like, "Yeah, that one." But like,
that's funny.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead, Katie.
Just like growing up, we were so like, my sister and my dad would be like, he'd speak Spanish to us all the time, and we would be like, English, like you need to speak English, and we wanted to like do anything that we could to blend in because there was no like other bigger cities that you grew up in. You kind of can find your culture, or like there's just more people who are around you that speak that language, like whatever your native language is. And we're in upstate, we were just like, no, we wanted to like blend in, and we were like, please stop being so Mexican, like please don't spray paint the car, please just speak English, like please don't play Julio Iglesias when my friends come over. Did you guys did you guys have like in your house, like do your parents speak English now, or do they still speak Spanish only?
No, we only speak Spanish at home.
Yeah. And I think my dad was like, my dad literally like divorced my mom, married another woman that we've never met. And we were talking one day, and he goes, you know what my biggest regret in life is? And I was like, any of those things. And he was like, no, I never made you guys really speak Spanish. I was like, oh, that's good. Yeah. But I feel like we just stopped. Like, we refused. And he tried so hard, but we just, like, outnumbered him, I think.
Well, my question to you is, when you say upstate New York,
Yeah, like where?
what town? Upstate New York is huge.
Yes, not what New Yorkers call upstate New York. I mean, like, get in your car and drive past the place where people from New York City vacation, and then keep driving through Apple Country, and then keep driving till you get to the snowstorm areas, and that's where we were. So, like, we were really in, like, central upstate New York. So, like, we I don't
I'm
know.
still waiting for the name of a town.
I'm in Syracuse. We were in Syracuse.
Okay.
I was giving you a geographical, in the middle of the woods. But
all right, Syracuse. Okay.
Yeah. So, like, downtown Syracuse.
That's white.
It was white. Yeah. It was so
and sad
white.
and very sad.
And gray. It was very gray.
Yeah. I've been there plenty of times.
People were sad. But so did you guys, like, so did you know any English before you moved, or did you only know Spanish?
I did not know any English. I came here and I was my first year. So I came here when I was in second grade, and they plopped us into this ESOL program, basically.
Yeah.
And so for 1 year, I went in second grade. I went to this one particular school, which was a little bit further out.
Yeah.
But I guess I could only imagine that I did well enough on testing or not, or you know how the school system's fucked up. So they're like, get this guy out of here. I'm not sure what happened, but somehow or another, for third grade, I was placed in my school.
Okay.
That was in my zone, in my district. So this, second grade, I'm in this elementary school with like 1 million immigrants, like literally 1 million immigrants. And then all of a sudden the next year, it's just like kind of like white utopia, a couple of black people here and there, a couple of Latino kids here and there. But for the most part, it was fairly white. And that's when what I call the submergence began, right? Because when I was in that second grade school, there was other kids who didn't know the language, so we spoke to each other in Spanish. But then once you're in an American school, like that help is gone, and you fight or flight, sink or swim, and you learn English real quick.
Or you don't.
Or you don't. Yeah, it's either or you get made fun of on a daily basis, and you're like, I can't let this happen anymore.
Yeah. So did you?
That's so funny, because then you become comedians like me and you.
Yeah, exactly. You got to learn how to like handle that, and then you deal with it. It gives you that quick mouth. Yeah, I do. I think. So did you guys like? I think that is so funny how they give people like 5 minutes. Like, think about how shitty Americans are at learning other languages. Because, like, we will have people that will take a Spanish class for, like, 4 years of their life, and they still can barely speak. And then we'll put people who only speak Spanish, and we're like, we'll give you, like, 6 months, and then you got to get this fucking language, and you're going to have to do schoolwork in it. So.
And we're mad at you the whole time that you can't already do it.
Yeah. You know what though? I think it's like the Navy SEAL approach. It's like, here, you learn. You go and learn. Because what I see a lot of times is, people from other cultures, they come in, and especially as time goes by, right? So my cousin came from Colombia many years after we did, and he came to our community, which is filled with Colombians now. So he hasn't had his back against the wall to learn how to speak English. He's been coddled in this community that is already here, where I was placed in. I was the only person go and learn it, and so I was forced to learn it, where my cousin wasn't forced to learn it. So if you talk to my cousin, he speak like this, and he pronounce correct, and that's because he watches the news in Spanish. He reads the Spanish news. He's not in an environment where he's forced to speak English. I don't want to say 24 hours a day, but
Yeah.
a good portion of the day.
Yeah. I think it does
And that makes
change
a big
things.
difference.
Yeah, I think so. Just having to do it, you're like, oh, I need to learn this fucking word, because especially having the comedian brain where you're like, I need to communicate my thoughts because they're so good. Everybody else needs to know them. So
Yeah,
when
and
you,
on that same
go ahead.
on that same point, I think it's the reason why I say Collazos as opposed to Collazos, because I remember one time, in, I don't know, 30 years of living here, some kid was like, "What the fuck is Collazos?" And that's all it took for me to be like, "All right, I guess I'm gonna just make it Collazos,"
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Let
eat
me make
polo.
it easier for you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Believe me, if there was a way for me to make my name change into anything else so that people could say it, I would have done that. Because I was just like, I don't want to do this 10-minute introduction every time.
There is, oh my God, I got to tell you this story. There was one time I got this audition for a native speaker, Spanish native speaker, which I am,
Yeah.
right? So I sign up and then I go to this audition, and the casting director or whoever was in charge, I don't think it was the casting director at that point. It was like the first audition. This lady was like, you were born somewhere else, right? And I was like, yes, I was born in Colombia. She's like, okay, great. So do that accent and read these lines. And she gives me like 3 lines, and I worked really fucking hard at not having an accent. Like, I worked extremely hard at not. For me to bring back that accent, I have to channel my mom. I have to channel my dad, and it takes some meditating. It takes some thinking.
Yeah.
Like, I erased that part of my memory of my growing up. So I remember reading the lines, and I just could not nail it. I don't remember what the lines were, but there were some words that I could nail, and there was other words that I very Americanized.
Yeah.
And the lady was like, "What, you were born there, right?" And I was like, "Yes, yes." She's like, "Okay, well, I need more
I
of
need
that.
that.
I need that, and can you just run it again?" And I remember running it a second time, and she was like, "Thank you. Next."
Oh,
And I
God.
immediately knew that I did not get this audition,
That
and
sucks.
it was because of the growing up. It was because of my growing up.
Yeah. It is crazy. I notice if I'm drinking and I'm in a country where Spanish is the primary language, I will I think that part gets untapped or whatever, or unlocked, and then I can spit out all, my friends would be like, "What the fuck were you guys talking about?" And they were like, "You made him laugh." And I was like, "Yeah, I guess I was telling jokes in Spanish." I was like, I don't know. It's like it just came out. I couldn't do it right now.
That's interesting, because if I get drunk, I forget how to speak Spanish.
Do you? That's so funny.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what happens.
I get whiter.
You get fully assimilated.
Yeah, I get whiter and I get really sleepy.
Well, I do that too.
Yeah.
So did you when you moved, was it easy to fit in, or did you how were the kids in your school receptive to you being there, or was it more of a struggle?
Man, I feel like I feel like I tried really hard to fit in.
Yeah.
With the language, and I was very physically funny, so I would do a lot of physical, like jumping up and down. I did your typical little kid thing of my shoulder blade comes out pretty easy, so I do that a lot. I would make faces. I would do anything physically to make people
Yeah.
like me, basically. And I think that carried me in terms of being liked until I was able to catch up with the language.
Yeah.
So then once the language was there,
Right.
once the language was there,
Thanks, New York.
once the language, yeah, once the language was there, I matched it up with the physicality, and then I became, one of the funnier people,
Yeah.
in my school.
So did you get bullied at all, or were you able to sneak by?
I think I was able to sneak by, but I also got bullied. I
Yeah.
was that person that was in both circles,
Yeah.
because I would get bullied for not not knowing how to speak properly, pronunciating things wrong, just not knowing things. But I was also like somebody who could make people laugh physically
Yeah.
and with faces and stuff like that. So it was like we like this guy, but we're still gonna make fun of him because he
Yeah.
can't talk. And like I said, eventually, they both kind of merged, and then now I'm unfucking touchable.
Yeah, that's what happens. You're like, I've got confidence and the language. Stand back,
Yeah,
motherfuckers.
that's right. No one knows that I cry myself to sleep every night.
Our secret.
Yes,
We pinky
exactly.
promise we won't tell. So did you ever find Latino people when you were growing up, or was it all white people?
No, there was Latino kids. Like when I was on the football team, I was on a football team in high school. This was I don't know. This football team probably had about 60 kids. Most of them were black or white. There was 2 Latino kids.
Yeah.
There was 2. And ironically enough, the other guy was the kicker. I was not the kicker. I was a backup, like triple fucking third string backup. But there was other Latinos. But it wasn't until I got to college that I realized how, like, I don't want to say realized how, white the world was, but I went to school at the University of Florida, which at the time had 45,000 students, and the Latino population was like 3%.
Yeah.
So like, if you do the math, there was like
8 of them.
I don't know. Yeah, seriously, like 2,000 Latino kids.
Yeah. Which is wild for Florida. You know what I mean?
Yes, it was wild. This was 1997. Definitely wild for Florida. But this particular school at the time, and still is, kind of academically hard to get into. So all the Latino kids went to FIU in Miami, FAU in Boca Raton, which is South Florida. All the top tier kids would go to University of Florida. I don't want to say I was a top tier kid, but I got good enough grades for them to be like, we're going to give you a chance, And
Yeah.
I was about to, when I got to college, I almost joined 2 black fraternities. Like I was ready. I was friends with all the black kids in my high school. I was part of the football team. All my best friends growing up have always been black. So I carried this identity, not like Rachel Dolezal, where I identified as black, but I had a lot of black friends. I was more into the black culture than I was into a white culture.
Yeah. My closest friend in college, I went to school with like my best friend who was very white, but then my like first outside of my group of friends was Korean, and so she would like take me to all these parties, and I remember being like, damn, Korean people, they party like so much better than white people do. Like we would go, they had money. Like they were like, I'm like, we're all garbage people who like drink out. Like we go wherever they have $5 drinks, and they had like top shelf vodka and like whatever. And I was like, could I rush like your sororities? Like this is so much better than anything we've got going down the street. Like, this is
so
way cool.
funny.
And she was like, yeah, white people are garbage. Like,
oh my God, that's so funny.
Yeah, it was just like hilarious how like, I guess not hilarious, but she was so like, she was like, no, you guys just are like trash people. She was like, look
That's
how
funny.
we live.
No.
Like, yeah.
So I found out, I eventually, a little bit later, found out that there was a Latino fraternity on my campus. There was only one at the time. And I was like, okay, let me go see what this is about. And they grabbed a hold of me and they did not let go.
They liked that shoulder trick.
Yeah, they were like, wait, you're interested? Come here and come here now. And they did not let go. So I've been a part of that fraternity for ever since then. And, it's weird because, and I'm sure, but like Latinos are very fragmented. They're very divided, Black people are always together with black people. White people are always together with white people. But I'd like to say that we're more cognizant of our divisions, right? So if it's like, Katie, I know you're half Mexican, right? I just know that,
Yeah.
right? I'm Colombian. Our good friend Darren Rivera, we know that he's Puerto Rican. We know everybody's culture. Oh, that guy's
Yeah.
Ecuadorian. Oh, that guy's from Argentina. Oh, that guy's from Panama. Where I think it gets a little bit more diluted and a little bit more lost, or maybe not even there and that's because of years of what's been happening in this country where like a white person's like, oh, I'm just white. But it's like, yeah,
Yeah,
but
they're like,
what were your grandparents? I think my
yeah,
grandparents were, German and maybe Irish. So we're a little closer to that, you know?
yeah. I do feel like, yeah, people are just like, oh, I don't know, Scottish maybe, or like they have no idea, and people are like, no, she's Puerto Rican, I can tell, like she's, whatever. And I had a friend whose dad was from Spain and his mom was from Colombia, and she would literally say, and to his like his language abilities, he spoke perfect English with no accent, perfect Spain Spanish with that dialect, and then perfect Colombian Spanish. And he could just
Wow.
he could just switch between the three of them. But his mom would always be like, oh, she's like, Colombian girls are the prettiest girls, and she'd be like, Shakira, and like, and she was obsessed with Shakira, and she was like, every other Latino girl or like group was not as amazing as the Colombians, and we were like,
That's so funny.
yeah,
We're like that.
yeah,
We're like
it is
that.
funny.
We're so proud, and if you're not part of our country, you are back of the line.
Yeah.
Get to the back of the line.
It is funny. Did you guys, so growing up then, did you date people that were Hispanic, or did you date women that were white?
I dated women that had vaginas.
Okay.
Like it didn't matter.
Yeah.
Like it didn't matter. It wasn't like I was like, oh, I got to do this or I got to do that. And even I'm 42 years old right now, and a lot of times I still get like, oh, you must like this type of person. I don't care if the person is great.
Yeah.
And if the person intrigues me. I've dated girls who are Korean. I've dated girls who are Japanese. I've dated girls who are black. I've dated girls who are Colombian. I've dated white women. I've dated everybody. Maybe the problem is me, and that's why I'm still single.
You're like, ooh, all those other people were great. Yeah. Did your parents have a preference? Like, did they want you to stay within Latino, or did they not care?
No, they didn't care. My dad never has said anything to me about those type of things. My mom has always just been like, just make sure that the person that you date makes you happy.
Yeah, well, that's good.
And then she'd be like, well, if you can find a Colombian, that'd be amazing. But it doesn't matter as long as the person makes you happy. Yeah. And I've done a great job of finding people who've made me happy until they didn't make me happy. You're like, and then I got rid of them.
Like, again, maybe me. Maybe it's me.
Again, yeah, exactly. A lot of therapy in my life.
That's all right. Yeah, that's what we're here for.
Yep.
So did you guys, did your family end up coming over when you were young, or did you guys stay like when we were in Texas with my dad's family being so close, like some of them lived in Texas and some of them were in Mexico, but that was like reasonable for them to get there. And so when we were young, my dad's family was like all around us, like just so like in your face and like picking us up, and like one of my aunts was like literally every picture is her holding me, like every picture that we have. And when we moved to upstate, we were with like our Irish family who was like, hey, like, Merry Christmas. Yep. Bye. Okay. So, I wonder how did you guys have family around you in Florida, or was it just your immediate family?
Well, the first thing that came to mind when you were saying that is you're the embodiment of my big fat Greek wedding.
Yes, that's what it was. Yeah.
Yes or no?
Yes, very true. Like the way I think my parents' wedding is that wedding, like where like it's like my mom's siblings are like right here, and then my dad's family is like this whole family.
Yeah. So when we came to this country, it was mainly my mom's side of the family. The majority of my mom's side is here.
Okay, so there was other family there.
Yes. So my grandmother was here, my aunt was
Okay.
here, my uncle was here. So half of my family was here. So we had a support system here.
Yeah.
The other half is still in Colombia.
Okay.
So we did have luckily some family support. So what you went through, I also went through, where it was just like just family all the time, which is still what happens to this day. And you get to a point as an adult, which I'm like, that's normal.
Yeah.
That's what I find normal. I've dated women in which they are mom and dad and daughter, and that's it. No uncles, no
Yeah.
cousins. They go to sleep at 9 o'clock, and I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you people?
That's
You
what
know?
I noticed, like my mom's side of the family, they'll hang out, but like they definitely my mom herself was just like not as close with her family, and then my dad, it like blew his mind. Like he was always just like, we live so close, like why don't we, like how do we not hang out with them all the time? And I noticed that if I'm dating someone that has a huge family, I like get into that family so deep. I'm like, oh, come on. Like I want that chaos. And they're always like, oh, I'm so sorry that like, my mom's always in your business. And I'm like, I have 5 group chats with your mom. Like, don't worry about it. I'm like used to that chaos of like, family members just being in your business and like, just being all around you. And, I remember
Family's so important to us.
Yeah. And it's just like a
Family's
thing.
so important to us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
And it's weird because I say family is important to us, where, the listeners might think, yeah, my mom and dad are important, but it's like, no, it's beyond that. My grandma, my grandfather, my aunt, my uncle, the people that they married, my cousins, like this huge web of people is extremely important.
Yeah.
Where other people might just be like, yeah, my family is important. It's like, who's your family? It's like, oh, it's just my mom and dad. It's like, all right, I'm not knocking that, but that's the bare minimum for you to get into this fraternity. You know what I mean?
You're like, there's a whole closet right here of stuff.
Yeah, seriously.
That is funny. So did you guys, so then you had your family, did you have like cousins? Like how long did it take for you to make friends? Like we moved to New York so young that we just like grew up right in the school system and it was fine. Like how long did it take for you to get friends when you moved that weren't like your family?
That's an interesting question, because I vividly remember that people wanted to be friends with me.
Yeah.
But my parents always shut it down.
That
Always. One of the best examples, or the primary example, is I remember walking home from school. I was like, I don't know, 8, 9, maybe. And as I was walking, I grew up in a building, so it was like a complex, right? And I mean, a building complex,
Yeah.
not like I have a complex, although I do have a complex.
We're not talking about that complex right now.
We're not talking about that right now. Okay? As I was walking towards the building from school, there was two girls playing in, they were just playing in the area, and they were like, "Hey, you're the new person up in the 4th floor or whatever." And I was like, Jess,
Yeah.
And they were like, and then they were like, "Do you want to play?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know what I said in my broken English." I was just like, "I have to go home. I'm sorry, whatever." So I went up to my apartment, and that was apartment 404. And my parents were home, and I'll never forget that someone knocked on the door. So then my dad opens the door, and it's this girl who I will never forget. Her name is Jennifer. My dad opens the door, and there's Jennifer and the other girl. And they were like, "Does Oscar live here?" And then I guess my dad understood, and he was like, "Yes, Oscar lives here." My dad didn't speak English either. And then the girls were like, "Can Oscar come out and play?" And then my dad was like, "No." and he just shut the door in their face. And I was like right behind my dad, like, oh shit, what? And then he shut the door, and I was like, literally just, I was like, no, why? And I was like, why'd you do that? And he was like, I don't know those girls. I was like, what?
But I would like to. I'd like to know them.
So that's example number one. Example number two is one time there was a birthday party and it was a sleepover, right? But I didn't tell my parents. So I get to this sleepover, which, you know, this was late 80s, early 90s, your typical sleepover of like, we're going to watch a movie.
Yeah.
Things that make America amazing. You're going to watch a movie. You're going to watch The Sandlot. You're going to watch Back to the Future. You're going to watch Dirty Dancing, and then everyone sleeps over. And then the American parents touch everybody when they're sleeping, and then you wake up the next day.
And you snacks.
And then next day they make everybody breakfast and you play around. And then at 4:00 in the afternoon, your parents come and pick you up. These are very American things. So I remember getting invited to this sleepover or like movie night sleepover. And I didn't tell my parents. But then when my mom and dad came to pick me up, I was like, hey, everyone's going to sleep over. Is it okay if I sleep over? And my parents were like, no. And I was like, yeah, but I don't understand why. Everyone here everyone's watching a movie. Everyone's sleeping. There's beds for everyone.
Yeah.
The mom's making breakfast. And my mom was just like, I don't know those people. Get in the car. And I was like, fuck. So it was so awkward coming back into the house. Everyone's watching this movie. And I was like, guys, I gotta go. Bye. Yeah. And they're like, why? And I'm like, because I'm from a different country.
Yeah, you're like, remember
when my mom doesn't know you. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, and they're like, what does that mean? You're from a different country? I was like, I have to go make empanadas for 5 hours. Bye. You know?
Did you said you were 7 when you came here?
I was 7. Yes. And, I got here August 9th, 1986. I was 7 years old. And then in December, I turned 8.
So do you remember like what it felt like when you were like, oh shit, we're going to America, or like we're leaving home, we're leaving what I know? And like, how did you feel, or leaving people, or how was all that?
I don't remember leaving.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember leaving. I remember arriving.
Okay.
Because I don't think my parents were, you know, they didn't sit us down and they didn't give us a talk or anything. They was just like, come on, we're going on a plane.
This is the thing.
Yeah, this is what's happening. Maybe there was that talk. I don't remember it. I don't necessarily, it wasn't a point in my life where I was like, ugh, right? Yeah. I do remember arriving in America because America in 1986 was significantly different than Colombia in 1986, where like there was a lot of dirt roads. In Colombia, a lot of the cars were older. They're like 70s models. If you were at a stoplight in Colombia in the 80s, it was like shitty car, shitty broke down bus, a donkey, and a scooter with like 9 family members on it on like a dirt road, right? And then people were like selling oranges and chiclets, and people were robbing you. And then you get to America and it's like the nicest brand new car. All the roads are paved. It's civilized in terms of like people are obeying the street lights. So what I remember is arriving and being like, where the fuck am I? Am I in the future? Like this place this place is so futuristic and orderly and like
fancy.
Yeah, fancy, and there's such decorum and everything. So that's what I remember. It's just being a completely different world.
Yeah. And you came right to Florida?
Yeah, I went right to Florida,
Did your parents, so like something that my dad did was, or part of his personality was, he grew up so poor that he he was very frugal, like especially about the car. Like he spray painting the car was like not a joke. Like we drove this car. We had a Toyota Sentra that he kept until it looked like a car that would be in Mexico, and it started like rusting, and I remember like we would drive in the car and it would regularly break down. And this was like pre-cell phone. So like I remember we'd be on like a very busy road and the car would like start stinking and then it would just die. And my dad, like, you know how like an American dad would be like, this is bullshit, like I gotta get a new car. My dad was just like, all right, we're gonna have to walk 4 miles to, like, we need to walk to this building to call your mother to pick us up. And like I remember we had this car and I think it was a Toyota Corolla, and it was pink, like it was pearl pink, probably because that was the cheapest color, and like he thought like everything, he thought it was ridiculous that like we would buy anything new. Like he didn't understand, like if I had something, he didn't understand why my sister also needed something, because he'd be like, just wait, you're gonna get it. Like, and so this car turned so rusty that it was like dangerous, I guess. Like it was just rusting out. And I remember my friend's mom was dropping me off and we pulled in the driveway and she goes, oh my God, Katie, your dad, you guys finally got a new car. And I was like, oh my God, because this navy blue car was in the driveway. And he had spray painted the pink car navy blue.
Oh my God.
And my sister and I, like, we wanted to die. And then another time she had like busted one of her rims and he bought her a replacement rim, but he bought one rim and it was a spinner rim. And
oh my God.
Absolutely.
And he was like, wow, Olivia's fancy. He's like, you like fancy things? And she was like, I want to die.
From what I remember, your sister was in a clique about hot girls. I'm sure she loved having one spinner.
Exactly. And literally, he was like holding it and he was like, you love it. And he like spun it for like effect.
You love it. You love this.
That's so funny.
So he was just.
We had our fair share of used cars.
Yeah.
You don't come to this country unless you have a lot of money. You don't come to this country and just like buy brand new cars. Like you get whatever $200, $300, $400 car you can get. You ride it until it breaks, and it buys you.
Yep.
You basically buy cars to kind of save you time.
Yeah, you're buying some time. Yeah.
Yeah, you're buying time. So by the time I got to being around 15, we had bought like 3 or 4 of those cars.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember being 15 years old, and at the time, that's when you can get your permit in Florida. And I remember going to my mom and dad and being like, guys, that car is just sitting there. Can I use it? You know?
Yeah.
And like, I think a regular white American family would have been like, no, you can't. These are the repercussions for you and for us if this happens. My mom was like, it's yours, just be careful.
Was it like not registered?
It was registered. It just didn't work. So my mom was like, if you get it fixed,
like
it's
if
yours.
you can make it move.
If you can make it move, it's yours. But also remember that if you get caught, it's your problem and not ours. And I was like, I'll do anything to just get around on my own.
Yeah.
So I had this 1982 Mazda 626, which, for whoever might be listening, I think what happens is your brain goes to, ooh, Mazda 626. That's like a luxury car. It became a luxury car. In 1982, it was like the trial. It was
a prototype.
It was definitely the prototype. It was the invention. It might as well been Henry Ford's Model T1 or whatever it was, because it was the worst car ever. It had like 200,000 miles. It was raggedy as fuck. It was also like different colors.
Yep. We had.
It was all the same color, but like sunbeat in different places.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep.
So. And the metal had corroded in certain places, so I took Bondo,
Yeah.
Yep.
And I put Bondo on it, and then it became solid. And then I took spray paint. It was gold, so I spray painted. And so, yes, I could definitely relate to having some of the most embarrassing scenarios ever. But you know what? I think that all builds character. I'll never forget. This is the funniest story. You kind of had to be there. It might not be funny to you, but it was fucking hilarious to me. Remember, I told you I was the only Latino kid in high school, on the high school football team, and none of these kids had cars. I was one of the few kids that had cars. So after football practice, all these kids would walk miles home, miles, or they would take the bus. And there was a couple of kids that I was really good friends with, and I was like, "Hey, man, I'll take you home because I can't take the whole football team home." So I remember when I got this car, my friend Henry Dixon, who is just such an awesome human being, we're still good friends to this day. He goes to all my comedy shows when I go to South Florida. This little guy, he gets in my car, and this car is raggedy as fuck. And he gets in the passenger seat when I pick him up, and he goes, "Damn, Oscar, this shit is clean." He goes, "This shit is clean inside, but raggedy as fuck on the outside." And I was like happy, but I was also offended. I was like, "What? I put Bondo. I sprayed it.
I didn't
What
work."
are you talking about?" He's like, "Yo, this shit is raggedy on the outside, but this shit is nice on the inside."
I remember my mom, I think in the late 90s, had a Mazda 626. And like one day she was taking my sister, her friend, and me. We were going, I cannot remember what they're called. We were going to some outlets in upstate New York. Like we didn't go to them. And this was like a big day. And the transmission went out at some point on God knows where on the highway. And my mom was like, "Cool, I have 3 kids and a dead car." And we ended up like whatever, the tow truck came. And there's not enough room in the cab, so the 3 kids were like in the car on the back of the tow truck.
Oh my god!
Super not allowed. And my mom is in the truck with this guy. She's worried about us. We're worried about her. We're like, "Mom's in the car with a guy. We hope he doesn't kill her." And like going along wherever the hell he was taking us was like along the river. So from where we were up in the top of the friggin' tow truck, it looked like he was just going to drive us into the river. And like, I've been a nervous kid for my whole life. And I was like, I think we're going to die in this river somewhere in New York because the tow truck man's going to drop us. But that was my, you said Mazda 626, and that is my visceral memory of one. It was riding in a dead one on top of a tow truck.
That's so fun. That's such a great story.
Yeah.
It was, she missed that car very much.
That's awesome. That's a great story.
Yeah, I didn't know that, but that's on my bucket list, I think, now, to ride in a car while it's being towed.
You're not supposed to.
Oh, man. What else?
I know. I was just thinking. Oh, I know. How about, so did your parents assimilate to American food, or did they think American food was garbage?
Oh, God. My parents have always thought that American food is kind of subpar.
Yeah, my dad too.
Until I started working in restaurants. I've worked in restaurants pretty much my entire life, but ever since I came to New York, which was 16 years ago, and I got a job at Nobu, which is like a super, fancy joint. I also worked at Momofuku with David Chang, so that's like another like foodie place. So for a long time, my parents were like, American food, like whatever. Like you and I, we think of American food as like burgers and
chicken
hot dogs
tenders,
and yeah, just like easy stuff that anyone could kind of just heat up. But now that I've worked in restaurants and I've shown my mom and dad, like this is
also American food.
This is also American food, but this is like the hard part of American food.
Yeah.
So what basically, we're introduced to in chicken tenders and hot dogs is for people who don't know how to cook.
Right.
Yeah.
People that do know how to cook, they make amazing things.
Yeah.
So my parents do now know that American food can be great.
Yeah.
But when you grow up so long thinking that American food is just burgers and hot dogs, they still kind of have that like, oh God, American food, which I still carry. Sometimes I'll show up to a barbecue and I'll be like, I'll give you a perfect example. My cousin Pia in New Jersey, I love her to death. She's one of my favorite human beings on earth, and she's my mom's cousin. So she's technically my second cousin. but she married an Italian guy from Brooklyn. So they have American kids. So whenever they have a barbecue, they have like burgers and hot dogs for the kids at the beginning. But then they have like the second course is like just amazing.
That's when it gets good.
Yeah.
That's when it gets good. And the kids will eat both of those things, right?
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see when I go to their house, it's like American food is an appetizer, which I find comfort in.
Yeah.
It's comfort food. But then we get to the real deal where it's like, all right.
Now we got good food coming out.
Yeah, good food coming out next,
My mom's family is Italian, and like, so how we grew up was Thanksgiving includes like massive antipasto courses and then homemade pasta, and then we get to the Thanksgiving stuff, which is like we care less about because we're full on the other stuff. And then like I didn't know that other people don't have some of these things, so they'd be like, we have corn on Thanksgiving. I'd be like, what? You have corn?
What?
Yeah, ravioli and stuff you don't realize. And then my dad's family is Jewish, and so that's like its own delightful feast on those holidays.
I think a multicultural Thanksgiving is something that everybody should experience because it's so awesome. Because I don't know about you guys, being that you also come from different cultures, but we give thanks for our coming here. We also give thanks to our culture. So we have our culture, and then we have this culture. So we have two cultures. Where Laura, you have three cultures, really. Katie, you have three cultures too. And I think those type of Thanksgivings are even more special. And then whenever I bring a white woman into my Thanksgiving, they're like, what the fuck is going on here? And I'm like, don't worry about the pig. That's for later.
Yeah, I think if you show up to a holiday and you don't have to like buckle up, then I wish you had gone somewhere else. Like, it should be wild, no matter whose house you're at.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I brought you here to kill you with food. That's what we're gonna do.
Well, it's funny because like I grew up like so Syracuse, where we were, for whatever reason, had this big like Italian population, and so I remember like I was dating this guy and we went to a communion party or a baptism party, whatever it was, and we stuffed our faces there, and then we had to go to his Nona's house, and we like pull in the driveway and he goes, oh no. And I was like, what? Like, did we forget a gift, or like what's wrong? And he's like, we're gonna have to eat again. And I was like, I can't, like normally I'm game, but I can't right now. And he's like, we're gonna have to do it. And I was like, I will try, but like I was like, I'm so fucking
Don't you dare say no. Don't you dare say no.
Yeah, I was like, okay, I'll do it. But so like I'm the one that like does the holiday cooking. So it's like Christmas Eve we have a lasagna, but then the next day it's like traditional, like a traditional like or whatever Thanksgiving dinner, but like it's everything. It's all these like different foods. And I remember like I made this super traditional Thanksgiving. We had like garlic roasted mashed potatoes, homemade stuffing, homemade everything, like all this stuff is homemade. And then my dad's like, looks delicious, and he literally like opens a jar of salsa and pours it over the entire plate.
Get out.
Like I made gravy from scratch using the pan drippings, and I was like, you don't want that?
Such an underminer. Yeah. Oh my God.
It was like, it looks amazing. Can't wait to
ketchup. You're like
and he used to bring salsa to my aunt's house, like my Irish aunt. He would literally bring salsa, and he'd make my mom like put it in her purse, and she would be like mortified, and she'd be like, Juan, we're not doing that. And he'd be like, well, I would just put it in my jacket. And like he'd literally in his jacket pocket bring salsa, and like he would just like in the middle of like a family dinner just like dump salsa all over the whole thing. Like,
oh my God. I remember one time, first of all, that's so funny. What I'm about to say does not equal that, or does not match it. But on a similar note, I remember I was working at Nobu, which again is a Japanese Peruvian, super fancy,
Yeah.
super expensive, amazing restaurant, one of the top restaurants in the world. And they had one in Miami, so I was working in the one here in New York, and I fly home to South Florida, and I'm like, Mom, Dad, I'm taking you to Nobu where I work. We're going to go to the Miami one. So I got this reservation, and bottom line, it's me, my mom, and my dad. I dropped like $1,000 on this meal. And Japanese cuisine, people eat very small, very small portions, and you just eat small portion after small portion after small portion. And then before you know it, you're full, right? So that's what we did. And I remember leaving, and I was just super excited that my parents were able to kind of experience amazing food, an amazing culture, something that was different for them. And my dad was like, as soon as we walked out of the restaurant, my dad was like, "That was amazing, but man, I'm still hungry. Those portions are tiny. Let's go to like Colombia Vieja or whatever." And I'm just like, I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah." This is what my dad said. He goes, "Yeah, they didn't have rice. Like, I want rice." And I'm like, "Fuck, my God, no."
He needs the carbs. You need them.
Yeah, so it's weird because I think about situations like that, and it's like I think in our culture, people need to feel like they're going to die.
Oh yeah,
and go to sleep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Where it's not like, all right, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good here. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. We don't know how to like hug or say I love you, but we will feed you until you die. And that's how we do it.
You're like, that's my culture.
Yeah.
I
And you'll like
Hey, go
it.
fuck yourself, but here's a bunch of food, you know?
We were
Are
like,
you sure? Whatever. Here's chicken.
have you tried that? It's just like I love you.
Yeah.
We were going to my dad came to visit and my mom, and we were going to a Mexican restaurant, and then we had snacks at the house, and then we were going to a restaurant, and there was a Mexican taco truck that he knew existed near me, and we're literally in the car, and he's like, "Hey, Kate, do you think we could stop at that taco truck?" And I was like, "We're driving to dinner." And he was like, "But if we could just stop at the taco truck, like we just get like a quick little taco." And we stopped at the fucking taco truck, and he ate 6 tacos and then went to dinner, and he's not big. And then went to dinner, and it was like, the truck was like, the taco type was like cabeza, lingüe. And he was just like, "Yeah, all of them. Thanks." It was like eating like eyeball tacos. And then it was like, we were like,
Eyeball
every
taco.
part of the head was like involved in this taco in some way. I'm like, but that one they're literally just calling head. He's like, "Yeah, it's good. You want to try it?"
The fun part of living in Southern California, those are all over the place. And they're all delicious.
Yeah, I mean, it was good.
Those are the offcuts that well, if you're listening to this podcast and you don't know how that happens, it's because traditionally white people would slaughter an animal, and they would keep all, your sirloin, your T-bone, and they would give the workers the offcuts, so your oxtail, your head, your snout, your pig's feet. And that's why these items are so popular in other cultures, because other cultures have been poor, and that's what they've been doing. But now it's different, where people are like, "Oh wait, a pig's head is amazing. The snout is amazing. Pig's feet is amazing. Oxtail, I fucking love oxtail. Like, you don't even know. If there's any oxtail on the menu,
You're getting it?
I'm getting it. Hands down.
I think also, like, we're having to work with that type of the meat, like those cuts of the meat. It makes you become a better cook, because you have to, like, the meat's not as forgiving. Yeah, so you're like, I need to do something, like, I have to like make this flavorful. Like, my boyfriend just made chicken. He just made chicken upstairs, like, for dinner tonight, and he was like, I'm like, "Chicken?" And he's like, "No, I tried." And I like had a bite of it. He's like, "Pretty good for a white guy, isn't it?" He's like, "It's like full of adobo." He's like, "All I gotta do is steal from every other culture, and I can make this chicken good."
Not wrong.
No, he's not. It was pretty good. But yeah, I feel
When I
like
worked at
go
when I
ahead.
worked at Momofuku, we had this dish called crispy pig's head, and it was just a little circular, what we call torchon, which is just a circular breaded fried, like if you took shredded beef,
Okay,
basically,
yeah.
and you made it into a circle and deep fried it, with breadcrumbs. So that's what it was. But shredded beef is shredded beef from other. But it was the David Chang. He's not there, so he called it a crispy pig's head because that's where the meat came from. And people were so reluctant to getting it. They're like, a pig's head? Like,
Yeah.
is that brains? Is that eyes? And I'm like, well, no, technically, no. It's all it's all
The
the jaw
cheek
meat.
meat,
It's all
yeah.
cheek and jawa and all that stuff. And I'd say 50% of the people are like, I'm not eating that. And then I would be like, look, try it. If you don't like it, I'll take it off the bill.
Yeah.
But I just want you to try it. And 100% of the 50% of the people that did try it, they're like, this is fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Just meat. It's just meat.
Yeah.
Stop thinking about where it comes from. Don't worry about my chef being crazy and calling it crispy pig's face or crispy pig's head.
Yeah.
You know what oxtail is, but you're not like, ew.
Yeah.
It's just kind of the same thing,
Yeah, it is funny. Yeah.
Immigrants are special.
They
I
are.
don't
Yeah. We've had a lot of soup with fish heads floating around in them, and
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's the best.
yeah.
That's why I was kind of jealous of Anthony Bourdain whenever he would go around the countries. I'd
Yeah.
be like, oh man, that shit is
Because you
shit
know
just
that
looks
food
so
is
good.
so good.
Yes. So good.
So it's like, oh, yeah. So Oscar, where can people find you?
They could find me on Instagram at Colombian Comic. That's my handle. Colombian Comic is all one word, COLOMBIANCOMIC. Colombian Comic, all one word, COLO, because a lot of times people will spell it with a U.
Yeah, we'll
as
put
if
it
it's
in the show notes too. But yes, like
Right,
Columbia
yes, but it's
College
like,
or Columbia University.
yeah, or like Columbia, South Carolina. It's actually COLO, Columbia, like South America. Colombian Comic, all one word. And they could find me there if they want to find me there.
They will.
It's your choice, listeners, but find out.
Find them.
Yeah.
It's worth it. Just try the pig's head.
I like it.
Yeah.
You're going to like it. Yeah. And as always, guys, please like and subscribe and leave us those reviews. We love them. But definitely subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. And we will see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.